So for those of you who've never used the Unreal Engine before, we're really quickly just going to launch the engine from our Unreal Engine launcher here. And I hope this doesn't need to be part of the tutorial, but for those of you that need it, why not? And I'm going to create a new project, blank, with no starter content. You can add starter content and they give you some cool lights and interesting little chairs and shaders to play around with. And I'm just going to name this the Substance Snow Tut for the tutorial. I want maximum quality and set up for like a desktop PC or a console. And what I wanted to show you is just essentially bringing in some of the textures that we started creating and a couple of the features that you may want to use when importing textures, as well as things that you need to know when importing textures. So I have my textures right here, and the first thing I want to do, of course, is make a folder. So you can just right click in your content area and just make a new folder, and this one is going to be textures, just real simple. And now I'll go back to my folder, and we don't need the height map, as I mentioned, because it's all merged in. So for the snow, all we actually need is the snow normal and the snow merge file. And I'll just drag those right over this section and it starts importing them for you. And then it tells me the normal file was imported as a normal map and we're good to go. Then the next thing you want to check is make sure that you're using the DirectX normal format, so that when we export it from Substance, it should have been DirectX if you didn't change your settings, but you can tell because of where the light angles are coming from. So when we have a DirectX, light is always coming from the bottom and from the right, and we can see here that these are our craters and the light is shining up from the bottom onto the edge of this lip, and we're getting a shadow on the other side here where it's a little bit darker. So the light is definitely coming from the bottom and from the right, and it looks correct. So that's exactly how we want it. Then the other thing to make sure of is with our merge file here, that when you import it, we want to uncheck sRGB, and that's because we are actually importing this as a 16-bit PNG file. And so you see the colors just change there when I uncheck that. It's now the accurate colors that we're going for the physically based shaders, the ones that we exported from Substance. And it's important that you remember that every single time you're importing. So when we go to the other textures we have here, make sure that this merge is also set to uncheck sRGB. And for your normal maps, it should already be checked, but it's good just to take another look. I mean, if for whatever reason it can't sense, because Unreal does a great job of sensing when you import the textures, if it's a normal map or usually if it's a color map, and it'll just keep sRGB checked in most cases. But as I mentioned, since we are working from 16-bit PNG files, then we're going to go ahead and just uncheck sRGB on all those. Some of the other fun little tools is if you don't want to keep re-importing your textures to test little variations in how it looks, you can simply change some of these numbers here. It gives you very, very simple adjustments, just like the brightness of your texture and the brightness curve, which is like the contrast essentially of your texture, then like vibrance, the saturation if you want to play with your color maps, the hue, and just some other random ones to just play around with. Then looking in here too, these are your MIP settings, basically meaning as the camera gets further and further from where the texture is, it's going to MIP the texture down to lower resolution files, and it will create those for you automatically when you import it into the engine, unless you set your settings to uncheck that. So basically, don't worry about it. It should always create the MIPs for you, unless your texture is not a power of 2. If you have something that's like 40/20 and 40/96, then it's not a power of 2, so it will not MIP automatically for you. It's okay to do 20/48, 40/96, because it's still a power of 2, but as soon as you get those odd numbered textures, that's when it starts messing up and won't create the MIPS, and then you may get some other errors also. Then here under texture group is essentially you can set different settings for the compression and for the MIP and for a lot of other fun stuff globally if you change what texture group you're importing this into. So as you see, it has options like character or vehicle or light map, and when you import it to character, then you can just have all the settings across all your characters the same. So if it's anti-aliased, or like I said, if it has a better compression, like basically, I'm sure some of you have heard of compression, hopefully most of you, in the sense that it determines, like how a JPEG tries to change the size of a texture from a 5 megabyte down to a 1 megabyte, you start to lose little bits of it, and you sometimes can get artifacts inside the texture. And I know this is a lot of technical talk, but when you really get down to the meat and bones of game design, there's going to be a lot of that. So it's good to know this stuff, especially if you're bringing stuff into Unreal and creating your own things on the side. So you can always change the compression settings yourself right here. And don't worry, that wasn't a fart. My chair is leather, and so I could just pull my hand across it. Sorry. You can change if it's a grayscale, so it'll decrease the size of the texture and compress it based off of just a single color channel, grayscale. If it's an HDR file for something like a skybox or something that should not have any compression and you want the full value range from it. So it's good to run through those and see what each of those will do to your textures as well. And that's a lot of the main ones there. This is also where you originally imported your texture from. So instead of having to find it every time, if you save it in Photoshop and then just drag and drop and bring it back, as long as you're saving it to the same location, you can just click re-import up here at the top, and it'll grab the new file that you just saved out of Photoshop right into there. And that's a nice little feature also. So I believe we actually already have most of our textures in. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the forest ground as well from the previous tutorial, but you guys don't need to watch that because I'm just going to apply the same settings and make sure that it's all in DXT5. And then in the next section, we're going to jump right into starting to create the snow shaders, setting up some subsurface on the snow, getting tessellation across our map, and a lot of fun, cool stuff. So it should be good. Look forward to see you guys in the next one.